Hello and welcome. I'm Raghav, and today I'm going to create a complete reference guide, a complete refresher for Vagrant. It will be like a complete cheat sheet for Vagrant. And if you are a complete beginner, you can watch this video to learn Vagrant and see all the things we can do with Vagrant. You can do hands-on along with me. And if you have already worked with Vagrant or you have followed my earlier videos, you can take this as a refresher, as a quick refresh guide, and you can watch it anytime you want to refresh your knowledge on Vagrant, and it is like a complete cheat sheet. So before we begin, let us see what is a cheat sheet. Sometimes it sounds a bit negative that are we cheating, what is a cheat sheet. So cheat sheets generally is like a quick reference guide for any tool, any topic, and it contains all the necessary information or commands related to that specific topic, and this makes it very easier to remember and access all the information very quickly. You get everything of that topic start to end in one single file or in one single video, and it can be used by beginners as well as experienced professional as a quick reference guide. So with that, let's start our journey on Vagrant. So the very first thing is, you can see here I have added all the notes and all the commands and all the details here, and I will show you all this step by step. I will do hands-on. If you want, you can do hands-on with me, and I will also put all this information, all the details in the notes of this video. So let us start with the first thing. We have to install Vagrant to start with Vagrant. Now to install Vagrant, you can go to the Vagrant website. So if we just say download Vagrant, it will take you to the hashicorp website, and here you can see we can select our operating system, Mac OS or Windows or Linux, and we can download and install from here. So if you are on Windows, you can take this installer and then you can install it, run the installer and install Vagrant. Based on your processor, you can use any of these installers. If you're on Mac OS, if you have brew installed on Mac OS, you can just use this simple command and it will install Vagrant. And then if you don't have brew, you can just download it from here and then run this to install Vagrant. For Linux, again we have these commands to install Vagrant. So although I have discussed this in detail in the earlier session of installing and getting started with Vagrant, it is very simple, very straightforward. You just have to go here, select your operating system, download, installer, run the installer, and it will install Vagrant on your system. And after you have installed Vagrant, you can go to your terminal or command line. Now if you are on Windows, you can go to your command line. You can run it as an administrator or even as a normal user. It should work if Vagrant is installed for all the users there. You can also use PowerShell, or if you want a Linux like terminal, you can install Git on your Windows system and then use Git Bash. Git Bash will be like a terminal that you can see on Linux or Mac, and then you can use the commands here. So the first thing you can do is, after installing Vagrant, I will check Vagrant version by saying vagrant-v, and this shows me the version of Vagrant. I can also say vagrant-version. This will show me the same output. So this shows that Vagrant is successfully installed on our system. Now the other global commands that I can run with Vagrant is Vagrant global status. So if I say Vagrant global-status, this will show me status of all the machines on this system. It will give me the ID of the machine, the name of the machine, the provider, the state, the directory of the machine or the directory folder of the Vagrant file. And you can see the above shows information about all the known Vagrant environments on this machine. So the Vagrant environment is whenever you create a folder on your system and create a Vagrant file there, that becomes a Vagrant environment. So when you run this command, this you can run from anywhere on your system, and this will check any environments available, any Vagrant environments available on the system, and then accordingly it will show you the details here. Okay, and also this data is cached and may not be completely up to date. We can use Vagrant global status along with the prune option to prune invalid entries. So if you have deleted some environments and if it is still shown in the list here, you can use this command along with the prune status. Okay, and anytime you want to check any command, you want to see what are the sub commands, what are the things we can do with that command, you can use the option --help along with that command. So here let us say if I say vagrant and say --help, it will show me all the options and sub commands I can use with vagrant command. Similarly, if I say vagrant box and say --help, it will show me all the options that I can use with the command vagrant box. So whenever you want, you can use this option --help along with the command to see all the sub commands and all the options you can use with that command. Okay, so we have done this very first section. Installing Vagrant and checking Vagrant is available on the system and checking the global status of Vagrant. Now there is one more command called Vagrant status, but if I run this command from outside, like from anywhere on the system, it will say that a Vagrant environment or a target machine is required to run this command. That means this command I can only run from a folder that has Vagrant file. So a folder having Vagrant file on our system will be a Vagrant environment, and these commands I can run only from a Vagrant environment. So I will tell you this once we have created an environment. So this section is completed. Now during this hands-on, whenever you face any issues, you can let me know in the comment section below, or you want to send me any message, you can use the comment section. I read all my comments and I will reply to you as soon as I can. Alright, now the second thing is, after installing Vagrant, we need a provider for the virtual machine. So Vagrant will create the virtual machines, will manage, will do provisioning, will make the virtual machines ready for our projects or whatever we want to do with the virtual machines. But we need a provider that has these virtual machines and it will provide us the virtual machines. Now with Vagrant, Virtualbox is most commonly used. It is free and open source, but there are other options as well. We can use VMware, Docker, etc. But Virtualbox is the most commonly used free and open source virtual machine provider. If you just search for Vagrant provider, it will take you to the official website of Vagrant, and here you can see, while Vagrant ships out of the box with support for Virtualbox, Hyper-V and Docker, it has the ability to manage other types of machines as well. Okay, so we will go with Virtualbox here, and you can just go to your browser and say download Virtualbox, and this will take you to the Oracle Virtualbox website. And here you can select your operating system, whether you are on Windows or Mac or Linux, and then whichever operating system you select, you can download the installer. So that you can see here, it is downloading for Windows exe file that you can run and install Virtualbox on Windows. If you're on Mac, again it will download the DMG file that you can run and install Virtualbox. So as of now I'm cancelling this. I already have this on my system, and once it is installed, you can check with the command vboxmanage -v. So let me run this. I will say vbox manage -v, and this shows me the version of Virtualbox. And if this command does not run, if you're on Windows and you do not get output from this command, you can just check on your Windows programs, add remove programs, you will see Virtualbox, or you can just try running Virtualbox. So if you just start Virtualbox, I can say Virtualbox from terminal, and it will start Virtualbox on the system, and I can see the GUI of Virtualbox. I can see all these machines which I have. If you have not created any virtual machine, it will be blank, which is fine. I can also just go to Spotlight search by pressing command and spacebar on my keyboard, and then search for Virtualbox and then hit enter to start Virtualbox. And on Windows you can directly go to your programs or hit the Windows button, start typing VirtualBox and open VirtualBox and check. So we have done this section as well, installing and setting up of provider, which is VirtualBox. Now let us come to creating Vagrant file, and we can also say this is for creating the Vagrant environment. Whenever we create a Vagrant file in a folder, it becomes a Vagrant environment. So we will first create a new folder on any location on our system, and then we will open that folder from the terminal. So here I will go to my desktop and I have a projects folder here. I had created these folders for Vagrant earlier. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm pressing Command Shift and N key on my keyboard. If you're on Windows, you can press Control Shift N or just do a right click and create a new folder. I will call this as Vagrant Demo 1. You can name it anything. And this is now an empty folder. I will now cd to this folder or change directory on my terminal to the location of this folder. So it is on my desktop. I'm saying DESK and tab to autocomplete, projects tab to autocomplete. I will say Vagrant Demo 1 and hit enter, and now I am on my folder here. Okay, now we can run the command vagrant init to create a vagrant file. So this is what we need now. We have to create a vagrant file so that we can then give all the instructions inside the file for our virtual machine. So I can say vagrant init, which will create a default vagrant file without any VirtualBox or any VirtualBox machine boxes details there. Or I can also say vagrant init and give the box name or the box path. Now for this, you can go to vagrant boxes or box search. It will take you to this discover vagrant boxes from vagrantup.com, and here you can select any of the virtual machine you want or boxes you want. For example, if I want CentOS, I can select any of the CentOS boxes. You can also see the providers for this boxes. So this particular virtual machine or box, Vagrant box, we can get from Virtualbox, libvirt, Hyper-V, VMware, etc. And you can go inside and see more details about this box. And this is what we will put in our Vagrant file. Or if I want, I can directly create a Vagrant file with this box using Vagrant init and the name of the box here. But for now, I'm going to start with a very simple default Vagrant file, and for that I will say Vagrant init. And as I will run this command, you will see a Vagrant file getting generated here. So I will hit enter, and you can see the Vagrant file is generated here, and it also says it has been generated, and I can now run Vagrant up to create the first virtual environment. But before that, I will add the details of the box in the file, and you can also run the command Vagrant validate to check it is a valid Vagrant file and there are no syntax issues or no other logical issues here. So it is as of now a valid Vagrant file. Okay, now let us open the Vagrant file. You can open it in any of the text editors like Notepad, Notepad++, or any editors you have. So this is a Vagrant file. Now this may be difficult to go through and understand in a very simple editor. So I can open it with something like Sublime Text or maybe Notepad++, or I can open it with I have VS Code on this system. I can open it with VS Code. So this will be very easy to understand and see. Okay, so this is the Vagrant file and it is a Ruby script. So the Vagrant file is written in Ruby, and you can see this is the complete Vagrant file, and here all the configurations are shown below. We always start with this vagrant.configure to do config, and this is the API version 2 of vagrant.configure. Then you can see a lot of other details are here. You can see if you want to disable automatic box updates, you can use this config.vm.box. To set up port forwarding, we use config.vm.network port for a forward port. This is for setting up networks, private and public network, and adding a shared folder between host and virtual machine. Then this is how we give the details of the virtual box, and then the provisioning script, etc. So all this is commented out, and for now I will delete all the comments so that it becomes very easy for us to follow this. Okay, I have deleted all the comments, and now you can see a very simple vagrant file. We just have the start line and the end of the vagrant file. Alright, now I will add the details of the virtual box that I want, which is this one, CentOS 7. So I will just copy this config.vm.box and I will add here in my Vagrant file, save it, and before running Vagrant up, I will go back to my terminal and I will say Vagrant validate. I can also press the up arrow on my keyboard to go to the last command, and Vagrant validate. And this is a valid Vagrant file. So now I can run Vagrant status, and this command will now run because now I have a Vagrant file on this folder, and you can see it says no machine is created as of now, and this environment has not been created. So the environment will get created when I run Vagrant up. So I will say Vagrant up, which will also download and create the virtual machine. So I will say Vagrant up, and before that let me also show you this Vagrant file generator. So for beginners it can be handy. You can directly generate a Vagrant file using this online utility. You can also search for this. If you search for Vagrant file generator, you can go to this discussion, and here is the, you will find a link here to go to this Vagrant file generator. Here I can select the box, I can select which operating system I want. I can also directly give the name of the box here, and this link will directly take you to this Vagrant boxes search. From here I can search whatever I want and I can give the name here. Then the virtual machine provider, we can select VirtualBox, VMware, Docker, Hyper-V. We can also select from this drop down. If I say virtual machine, all the providers for virtual machine are here. If I say container software, we have options here, Docker and others. Cloud platforms, we have AWS, CloudStack, DigitalOcean, Google, etc. So whatever you want, you can select from here. As of now, I will select VirtualBox. Then the number of CPUs you want for your virtual machine, the memory, hard disk space you want for your virtual machine, and then if you want to keep any name for your virtual machine and the host name, all that you can give here. The IP address also we can give here, and then I will say create config, and you can see the Vagrant file here, and you can also download it. You can just copy it from here and add to your Vagrant file. So here we can see the config.vm.box name. We can give it a host name. We can select the provider here. We are giving the name to this machine, the number of CPUs we want or the processors, and the memory. So this can be handy for beginners to create the Vagrant file. So we have done this section. Now we will see how to start and stop the virtual machine. The very first thing is Vagrant up. It will start the Vagrant environment and also will create our virtual machine. So let us do this. I will say Vagrant up, and this process will import the base box for CentOS from Virtualbox. You can see the progress here, and then it will start it, boot the machine. So this is done, and it is giving the name Vagrant Demo 1 default. Now it is booting up the machine, and this can take some time based on the size of the box and the network speed and your configuration of your system, the number of processors you have running. All that will matter, and based on that it can take some time. So just wait for the machine to be up, and you can see it is also syncing the folder, and this is looks like it is up. I can run the command vagrant status to check, and yes, you can see this is running. And I can also go to my Virtualbox GUI to check this, and you can see this Vagrant Demo 1 machine is now running. Alright, now if I want, I can go inside the machine using Vagrant SSH, and now I'm inside my virtual machine, which is a Linux CentOS system. And here also you will see that by default the folder where we have our Vagrant file is shared to the virtual machine in a folder called Vagrant. So if I go to a folder called Vagrant, I just set VAG and pressed tab to autocomplete, and if I check ls, you can see our Vagrant file is here, which is coming from this folder. So this folder is by default shared. I can also check the content of the Vagrant file by saying cat Vagrant file, and you can see this is what our Vagrant file is. So now I am inside my virtual machine. I can exit to come out of the virtual machine, and it will close the connection. Then we can stop the virtual machine by saying vagrant halt. It will gracefully shut down the virtual machine. We can say vagrant suspend. This will suspend or stop the virtual machine and remember the state. That means it will save the state of the virtual machine, and when we say vagrant resume, it will resume a suspended machine. And if we have to run any provisioning script, we can use the vagrant provision command. Now this I will show you when we come to the provisioning section. And when I say vagrant reload, it will first it will restart the machine. So first it will stop it or shut down it gracefully. So it will run the vagrant halt command in the backend, and then it will start the machine again. So if I say vagrant reload, you will see it will first shut it down. So it is gracefully shutting down the VM, and then it will restart it, and you can see it is now booting it up again. We can use the -- provision option with vagrant reload. This is to force running of the provisioning script, which I will tell you later. And I can also check this on the Virtualbox GUI. You can see now it is running. And if I say it is up now, if I say vagrant halt, it will stop this machine. So here it is trying to shut down the VM, and now you can see it is powered off. If I say suspend, it will be in a saved state instead of powered off. So this is how we can stop virtual machines. Let me just make it up again. Okay, so this was about stopping VM. Now getting into the VM, we have already discussed. I can say vagrant SSH, and it will connect me to the virtual machine, and then I can do anything I want to do in that machine. We can also go to a specific virtual machine or specific box by saying vagrant SSH and the box name. Okay, we can do like this. And then to clean a virtual machine completely from your system, you can use vagrant destroy command that will completely remove the virtual machine, all its content, all the folders from your system. So let's say if I say, so this is my virtual machine running here. If I say it is in running status, so I can directly say vagrant destroy, or I can first stop it by saying vagrant halt. Let me say vagrant destroy here, and it will ask me for a confirmation. I will say yes, and you will see it will first power it off, and now you can see it has completely removed the machine from the system and all its folders. So it will also if you have any virtual machines which are no longer being used and you do not intend to use them in future, it's better to destroy them so that you can save some space on your host machine. I will again say vagrant up to create and start the machine from vagrant file. And if you use vagrant destroy along with the -f flag, it will do the same thing, that it will destroy or completely remove the virtual machine and the box without confirmation. So it will not ask for any of the confirmation like it did earlier, and it will remove the virtual machine from the system. Okay, so it is starting and we have completed cleaning of a VM here. Let us go and see the commands related to the boxes. So once you have added some boxes, virtual machines on your system, you can run the command vagrant box list to see a list of all the installed boxes on your host system. We can also add a box or virtual machine saying vagrant box add and the name of the box. Now when you do this, when you say vagrant box add and give the name of the box, it will add the box to your system, to the virtual box on your system, but it will not add its configuration in the vagrant file. So, and if you want to check any outdated boxes, you can run the command vagrant box outdated. And if you want to remove a box, we can say vagrant box remove and the name of the box. And if we have to package a running virtual box or a running virtual environment in a reusable box, we can use the vagrant package command. This is how we use it. We say vagrant package and hyphen hyphen output and the name of the folder where we want to package that running virtualbox environment. Okay, so let us see some of these options. Let my machine be up and then I will try these options. Okay, it is starting up, syncing the folders, and yes, it is up. I can check vagrant status, and it is running. So if I say vagrant box list, it shows me all the boxes. So the earlier boxes also that we have in any of the environments, it will show me all the list. And I can say vagrant box add and I can give the name of the box. So something like I can just say here CentOS 7 or whatever box I want, I can give the name. It will add the box, virtual machine box, to the system, but not anything in the vagrant file. If I say vagrant, also as I told you, whenever you want, you can use the hyphen hyphen help flag with any of the command to see all the details and options for that command. If I say vagrant box outdated, it will show me a list of outdated boxes. It is up to date. I can remove and repackage as well. Okay, now let us come to the provisioning commands and how do we do provisioning of virtual machines with Vagrant. Now what provisioning means setting up the virtual machine and bringing it to a state to be useful for a project or for a task. So whatever use you have for the virtual machine or whatever you want to do with the virtual machine, bringing it to that state by adding, installing, updating softwares, adding, running any scripts that you have to. So basically making the machine ready for your project or for your task. So for that, we add a block called config.vm.provision in our Vagrant file, and then we can give the scripts here. So we can use shell scripts. We can also use a separate script file and give the path of the script file here, or we can also use some automatic provisioning tools like Ansible, Chef, Puppet, etc. So here, and you will also find these details in the Vagrant file. Let me try to show you a Vagrant file, a default Vagrant file. I'm going to create a new folder. This is just I'm doing for showing you. You do not have to repeat this part. I will say Vagrant file demo, and I will open a new tab of the terminal and go to the location of this folder and say Vagrant init. So that will create a Vagrant file here, and I will open this Vagrant file in my editor. So the reason I have done this, I want to show you some of the comments for some of the data for provisioning. So you can see here you can enable provisioning with shell script. Additional provisioners such as Ansible, Chef, Docker, Puppet and Salt are also available. And here we use this config.vm.provision, and here we can tell what provisioning option we are using. So here we are using shell and we are using a inline shell script. So we can give the all the commands within the Vagrant file, or we can use a separate file as well. I will show you that as well in a moment. So for now, let us go back, and here I'm going to go to my Vagrant file, and I will add this provisioning script or a provisioning block config.vm.provision. Here I'm using shell and I'm using a inline command. I'm saying echo hello world. So I will save this and I will check if it is a valid Vagrant file now by saying Vagrant validate, and looks like everything is fine. I will clear the screen and now I will say I will run the command Vagrant provision. So it should run the provision script or the provision block. So let's see. You can see it is okay. Sorry, I have to go back to my folder Vagrant demo 1. Here I have to check the Vagrant file is valid, and now I will say Vagrant provision, and you can see it is running the provisioner, which is shell, and it is running our provisioning script, which is out. Here we are running this script which is printing hello world, and that is what we can see here. So this is fine, and then we can also add a separate, we can add all our scripts for provisioning the virtual machine or setting up the virtual machine in a separate file, and then here we can just say that the path of the file is this. So I can say here like config.vm.provision shell and path of the provision script. So as of now I don't have that script in the folder. I can give the complete path here, or if I am just giving the name, that means the file should be present in the same folder where I have my Vagrant file. As of now I don't have it, so if I say Vagrant validate now, let us see what happens. So it says there are some errors. The path for shell provisioner does not exist. So this path does not exist. So that means I have to first add the provision file here. Now I'm going to take it from my earlier project. So this is the provision file I used earlier. I will paste it here, and I will also show you this provisioning script. So here we are updating the softwares and packages, and then we are installing Apache web server. Now for a different distribution of Linux, instead of yum it can be apt-get. So based on the distribution you are using, you can select the commands, and it is starting the Apache web server on the virtual machine, installing, setting up and starting. This is our provision script, and it is provision1.sh is the name, so I will say provision1.sh. If it is at some different location, you can give the complete path as well here. And now I will check, I will say vagrant validate, and it is fine. So now I will say my machine is already running, so I can just run the provision, or I can also reload the system so it will restart along with the provision, but I will just say for now vagrant provision, and let us see what happens now. So it is running the provisioner or the provisioning script. So this is done, and now it is also running our scripts from the provisioner1.sh file, and it will download, install and start the Apache web server on the virtual machine. Okay. We can also run this command vagrant reload along with the provision flag, that will reload or restart the virtual machine and also run the provisioning scripts. So let this process complete. It can take some time. And you can try some more examples. You can find a lot of examples online, or whatever you want to do in your project. You want to, run some scripts. You want to start some servers. I will also show you how you can start the server here and then access it from your host machine, from the browser of your host machine. For that, we have to do port forwarding, which is our next topic. But for now, you can just understand that this is provisioning, means making the virtual machine ready for your project or for your use. And for that, we add the section config.vm.provision in our vagrant file, and then we give the instructions or commands, whatever we have to do for provisioning the virtual machine. And it is running. There may be some warnings or errors, but that's fine. Let this process be complete, and then we will move forward to networking. And in the networking, we will also do port forwarding, where we will forward a port from the virtual machine to the host machine, and then we will be able to access this Apache web server which is running on the virtual machine. And during this process, if you face any issues, any questions, you want to ask me anything, or if you are stuck anywhere, you can always let me know in the comment section or the Q&A section, and I read all my comments and messages. I will reply to you as soon as I can. And you can troubleshoot at your own as well first. So whenever you face any error message, try to check it online and see what are the options and try the options. So this is how you will learn. This is how I have learned, and you can also learn the same way. Okay, and meanwhile this is getting up, let us go to the next section, which is networking. Now here in Vagrantfile, we can set networks for our virtual machine. Here we can do port forwarding, that is, we can map a port from the guest or the VM to our host. That means if we are running any application on this particular port on our virtual machine, we can access the same application from our host machine using this particular port. Okay, and we can also create public networks by using config.vm.network and saying public network and giving an IP. If we do not give an IP will be auto assigned. And creating a public network for our VM means our virtual machine can be accessed from outside, and we can create private network as well. When we create a private network, we can make our virtual machine accessible to the host machine. So private network will make it accessible to the host machine, public network will make it accessible to host as well as other machines, and can connect to other virtual machines as well in the environment. So we can set these networks here. and here I can say I can use this in my Vagrant file, and when I say this config.pm.network forward port 80 of the virtual machine or the guest to port 8080 of the host machine. So my Apache web server will be running on my virtual machine on port 80, but then I will be able to access it on my host machine using port 8080. Okay, so let me just wait for this to get completed. Okay, so it should be done. um, Although it is taking more time than I had expected, so this may be because of, I will have to check the box I'm using and the provisioning script. So generally it should be very fast. We are just installing and starting a server, but that's fine, let it complete. Okay, so it should be done now. It's saying complete. Okay. Okay, also if you see in my provision file, here I have used yum update with a minus y flag, and this is because if you normally run this command yum update sudo yum update on Linux system, it will first calculate all the packages that needs update, calculate the size, and it will then ask for a confirmation, do you want to continue. And here, because we are running it in a mode where we are not directly interacting with the virtual machine, therefore we give this minus y flag so that it will continue without asking for a confirmation, and the same thing we have done here. Okay, and looks like this is done. So I will clear this, and I have now added the section for port forwarding as well. So you can see if I now my Apache web server must be running on the virtual machine. I can check that if I say vagrant SSH and go inside the virtual machine, and then I'm inside my virtual machine, and if I say curl localhost, I'm getting this hello world printed. That means the web server, the Apache web server is running on my virtual machine. But if I try to access it from my local machine, the host machine on localhost 8080, as of now I'm not getting anything. So for that we will do port forwarding. So therefore I have added this. I will save this and first check if it is a valid vagrant file. I will say vagrant validate, and okay, I have to exit from the virtual machine. Now I will say vagrant validate, and yeah, this is a valid file. Let me close this. And now to set up the port forwarding as well, I will have to reload the machine. So I will say vagrant reload. So it will restart the machine, and then we should be having the port forwarding done, and we should be able to access our server running on port 80 of the virtual machine on our host system on port 8080. Okay, so it has shut down the system and now it is rebooting it. And this time, although it will check the provision and the provisioning script, but it should not take time because all the things that we have added in our provisioning script are already added and installed on the virtual machine. So it will just go and check and then start the Apache web server there. Alright, this is done. I can check Vagrant status, and I will check if the machine is running, and yes, it is running. So now, because I have already set this port forwarding, if I now go to my localhost 8080, you can see it has already uh, came here. I can say http :// localhost. In place of localhost, you can also use the IP of the host machine and 8080, and you can see it is printing hello world. So that means we are able to access the server running on port 80 or the application running on port 80 on the virtual machine in the host machine on port 8080. So if I again go inside my virtual machine and I say curl localhost, you can see this is here, or I say telnet localhost on port 80. Telnet is not here, maybe I have to use sudo telnet localhost 80. It is not here, so I will just download it. I will say sudo yum install telnet, and it will get the package. I will say yes, it is 64K size. And now if I say I'm pressing up arrow telnet localhost 80, so that means it is connected to localhost. That means the application is running on port 80. I will press Ctrl C to come out and exit from the virtual machine. Alright, so here we are able to do networking here. Also, sometimes if that port is not available or being used by some other application, you can add the autocorrect port features. This I had shown in the networking video. Let me again show you that. If I try to show you the Vagrant file from my earlier project, this is the one. Here, when we did forwarding, you can see we can also add this option autocorrect true, that will check if the port is busy, 8080 is busy, it will forward to a different port, and it has a range by default, but if we want we can also provide our range of the port. So we can say check from any of the port from 8000 to 9000 if this is not available. So this also you can do. Let me just add this as well in the notes, so that when I provide you the notes you have all these here. All right. Now let us come to sharing of folders. So by default, the folder where you have your Vagrant file on your host system is by default shared to a folder called Vagrant on the virtual machine. So here if you see this folder where I have my Vagrant file, this folder will by default be shared. If I go to my virtual machine, I will say Vagrant SSH, and here I will say cd, and if I say Vagrant press tab, you can see it has auto completed. And here if I say ls, you can see these two files which were here on my host machine are present here as well. That means this folder is shared. I can also say ls-l to see a list view, and if I say cat Vagrant file, I can see the content of the Vagrant file. You can see this is exactly what my Vagrant file is. If I say cat provision1.sh, you can see my provision file as well here. So this folder is already shared, and if you want to share a different folder, you can use the option config.vm.synced folder and can give the location of the local folder and then the location of the folder on the virtual machine. So these two folders will be then synced. Otherwise, if you don't want to use any different folder, this folder is anyways synced, and if you want to send any file, any data from your host machine to your virtual machine, you can keep that in this folder and restart the machine, and you will see the data has come to your virtual machine. Alright, let us now come to the section for snapshots. So snapshot is like a complete copy of the current state of your virtual machine. Whenever you want, you can take a snapshot of your virtual machine and it will have a copy of that particular state with all the configuration, hardware, software configuration, disk contents, app packages, whatever you have in your virtual machine. So it is like you can keep a backup of your virtual machine, and whenever you want to restore your virtual machine with that backup, you can do that. So here we have some commands. So let me exit from the virtual machine, and we have Vagrant snapshot commands. I can say --help to see all the options I can use with this command. So we can say we can list the snapshots, save the snapshots, delete the snapshot, restore with the snapshot. So if I say Vagrant snapshot list, it will show me all the list of the snapshots I have. So it says no snapshots have been taken yet. Also here we can use Vagrant snapshot save, and it says note that not all providers support this. So your VM provider should support this option. In my case, I'm using Virtualbox, which supports this option of taking snapshots. So I can try this. I can say Vagrant snapshot. Now, even if your machine is running, that is fine. You can still create a snapshot, or it will be better to stop the machine, but that is fine. I will say Vagrant snapshot save and give some name to my snapshot. I will say my snapshot 1 and hit enter. So this will create the snapshot with the current state of my machine. You can see it is done, and now whenever I want, I can restore my machine with this snapshot. If I say I'm pressing up arrow on my keyboard to check Vagrant snapshot list, you can see it is here. Also, if I now go to my Virtualbox GUI, and this is my machine, if I go to tools, machine tools and snapshots, you can see this snapshot is now available here as well. Okay, and whenever I want, I can restore my machine with this snapshot by saying Vagrant snapshot restore and use the snapshot name, which is my snapshot 1. Now when you do this, it will be better if your machine is stopped. Otherwise it can take some time, but otherwise also it should work. As of now I am not restoring it. It can take some time, but this is how you can do it. And if you want to delete, you can say Vagrant snapshot delete and the name my snapshot 1. So you can see it will delete the snapshot, and here also you can see it has deleted our snapshot. Alright, and also please note that the snapshot will be a backup of your virtual machine, but it will not take backup of your Vagrant file or any content in the folder where you have your Vagrant file. If you want a backup of that you have to do separately using any version control system, Git, etc. It is a backup of your virtual machine. Okay, so this is what snapshots are. Now let us see plugins. So plugins are like add-ons, some extra features or extra functionality you want to add to your tool or to your process. For that we use some add-ons called plugins, and you can see all the available plugins for Vagrant here. So if I just go here, this will show you all the available plugins. So we have plugins for Chef, Puppet, domain resolution, guest providers, provisioners, shared folders, host interaction, networking, snapshots, and some uncategorized also. So you can use any of these plugins with Vagrant, and here I can say Vagrant plugin and hyphen hyphen help to check the status, to check all the commands and options that I can use with this command. I can say, so let me just go back and show you some of the options. So we can install using install, we can list, we can repair, we can uninstall, update, expunge is deleting all the plugins, and then we can also assign a license. All this we can do. So here I can say Vagrant plugin list. So this was I added earlier when we were learning about the plugins in the plugins video. So therefore it is showing me this. I can also use the plugin in a Vagrant file. So let's say if I try to get this plugin Vagrant disk size, this is to resize disk for virtual machines, and this is how I can get it. Vagrant plugin install Vagrant disk size. I will copy this command and run it here. So it will get this plugin and install it, and it is installed. Now if I say Vagrant plugin list, I should see this here. So this has come here. Now I can use this within my Vagrant file as well. So you can see this is how you can use it. So some of the plugins you can use in the Vagrant file, and if you go to the details of that plugin, so from here you can click on the link and you can see how the plugins can be used, and you can get all the details here. Then we have options to update the plugin by using Vagrant plugin update and the plugin name. We can repair, we can uninstall, we can expunge, that is to delete all the plugins, and we can reinstall the expunged plugins by saying Vagrant plugin expunge hyphen hyphen reinstall. So these are all the plugin commands. Some tips: whenever you want, you can use Vagrant -v to check the version of Vagrant, and within a Vagrant environment you can run the command Vagrant status to see the status of your virtual machines, and you can see it shows us the virtual machine and its status, etc. And from anywhere on your system, if Vagrant is installed on your system, you can run this command from anywhere, that is Vagrant global status. Vagrant status will run only in an environment or a folder where you have Vagrant file, but Vagrant global status can be executed from anywhere on the system. So you can see it shows us the ID of the machine, the name of the machine, the provider, the state, and the directory of the machine. So you can see all these details here. All right. So these are some references. I will put all these notes in the description or the notes section of this video, and I will also try to create a PDF of this complete cheat sheet and give you the location in the description of this video. If you face any issues during this entire process, you can let me know. If you have any suggestions, you can let me know. I hope this was very useful. I will see you soon. Thank you for watching, and never stop learning.